When you play only the black keys on the piano, you get a rather dreamy, sweet, and even oriental sounding vibe. Composers such as Debussy and Ravel frequently used these notes to evoke a sound that was quite uncommon in Western music. And this set of notes is what we know today as the pentatonic scale. Hi, my name is Guwei. Before we talk about the pentatonic scale, let's first define what it actually means. From its name, the pentatonic scale refers to a scale with 5 notes in an octave. So which 5 notes are we talking about? While there are various pentatonic scales around and various ways of arranging 5 notes in an octave, the most commonly used scale today by far is the N-Hemintonic pentatonic scale, which if we begin on the note C, we will get the notes C, D, E, G, and A, which is also known as the major pentatonic scale today, because if we compare it to the major scale, we are basically taking away the 4th and the 7th scale degrees. And if we transpose these notes a tritone higher, we get all the black keys on the piano, which are what Debussy used in the opening piece. Debussy was not the first, and certainly not the only one who used the pentatonic scale, since the history of the scale goes way back in time. Okay, a quick disclaimer here. So I'm aware that there are different tuning systems around the world, and to approximate the pentatonic scale to the Western tuning system is probably not the best thing to do. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to make that assumption in this video. But just be aware that even for the major pentatonic scale, there are various ways of tuning it around the world, depending on the culture. Alright, back to the video now. In 2008, in southwest Germany, scientists found bone flutes dating back to as far as 60,000 years ago. And these are some of the earliest evidence of human creativity through music. What's remarkable is that some of these flutes were actually tuned roughly to the pentatonic scale. Does this mean that our ancestors were already using these scales back then? We might never know, but what it tells us is a hint that the pentatonic scale could have already been with us for a long time, and it could be something that it's innate with the human musical mind. Let's fast forward to ancient Greece, where the famous mathematician and musician Pythagoras developed a tuning system using simple ratios to derive notes of the scale. Using intervals of the octave, perfect 5th, and perfect 4th, he was able to derive the entire diatonic scale. And the first 5 notes that he derives through this method happens to be the pentatonic scale. The number 5 was also significant in ancient Greece as a number that ruled the heavens, since there are 5 visible planets, and a number that ruled humans, since we have 5 fingers, 5 toes, and 5 extensions from our torso, being 4 limbs and a head. In other parts of the world, the pentatonic scale is also extremely common, ranging from traditional Scottish music to traditional Indian music, in Africa such as Ethiopian music, and extremely widespread in Asia, in Chinese, Korean, Mongolian, Vietnamese music, etc. The pentatonic scale is also used commonly in contemporary styles such as blues, jazz, gospel, country, etc. And in some pretty unexpected places. Yeah. Since the pentatonic scale exists in almost every part of the world, and various cultures have seemingly developed their own versions of the scale independently, it does raise the question as to why is it so ubiquitous? Do we have some kind of innate resonance with the pentatonic scale that we are so hardwired to use them? To further explore this question, let's look at some music theory. So when we look at pentatonic scales, they are actually the scale with the most consonant intervals. Comparing the major scale with the major pentatonic scale, we can see the difference between these two is a lack of the 4th and 7th scale degrees in the pentatonic scale. These two notes in traditional functional harmony are known as the tendency tones, which have a strong tendency to resolve to more stable notes. By removing these two tendency tones, we are taking away the dissonance from the pentatonic scale, making it extra consonant. Another way of explaining the consonant quality of the pentatonic scale is by looking at how it could have been derived in the first place. If we look at the circle of fifths, for example, we can take any 5 consecutive notes along the circle, and we will get 5 notes which make up various pentatonic scales. Since these 5 notes are grouped together as close as possible around the circle, they represent the most consonant group of 5 notes possible. This also reminds us of the Pythagorean tuning system, which tunes notes based on consonant intervals such as the perfect fifth. So, okay, the pentatonic scale is consonant, but how does that support a claim that it is universal? I mean, consonance does not equate to universality, does it? Well, if you think of the earliest forms of music as a kind of improvisation, it is certainly possible that being able to improvise on a consonant scale will be an advantage to have. While we might never know how exactly the pentatonic scale came about, it is possible that its consonants played a big part in its popularity in the world today. In linguistics, we have different language families, and each of these language family has its proto-language, which is a language which all of these languages evolve from. For example, English, Spanish, Russian, and Hindi are all hypothesized to have evolved from a Proto-Indian European language. So applying the similar concept to music, since pentatonic scale is so ubiquitous, could it be a proto-scale that subsequent scales evolved from? German music theorist Hugo Riemann developed a theory of scalar evolution, in which he suggests that the diatonic scale was a result of the pentatonic scale and the tetrachord, and both need to coexist in order to allow the formation of the modern diatonic scale. So the idea of different scales evolving from the pentatonic scale is actually pretty common. Early Gregorian chants often began with a pentatonic head motif, which is then embellished by additions of other passing tones.
Dixit Dominus Domina mea, sede ad extris velis.
This is also similar to the Chinese concept of 变音 or 偏 tones, which is the addition of semitones in between the pentatonic notes. Another example that we are probably more familiar with is the blues scale. So the major blues scale and the minor blues scale are actually derived from the major pentatonic scale and the minor pentatonic scale respectively, by adding a blue note in the pentatonic scale. As summarized pretty nicely by a Hungarian composer and music educator Zoltán Kodály, pentatony is an introduction to world literature. It is the key to many foreign musical literatures, from the ancient Gregorian chant through China to Debussy. Another prominent music educator, Karl Orff, also advocated for the use of pentatonic scale as a method to teach children and allow them to first discover their musical selves. The pentatonic scale allows easy improvisation. since its consonant quality means there can be no dissonant or wrong notes. The use of the pentatonic scale as a device for improvisation is not limited to just music education, but also extremely common in styles such as blues and jazz. Since it is so consonant, musicians are able to superimpose various chords over a single pentatonic scale. Let's take a C pentatonic scale for example. Here are just some of the chords that could work with the C major pentatonic scale in a melody. And here is my attempt to do a bit of improvisation over some of these chords. So to end this off, I would like to just show a video of American jazz vocalist Bobby McFerrin demonstrating the power of the pentatonic scale. Basically, he taught the audience a few starting pitches, and using those few pitches and demonstrating through his actions, he was able to guide the audience to sing a complete pentatonic scale.
Yeah. What's interesting to me about that is, regardless of where I am, anywhere, every audience gets that. But it doesn't matter, you know, it's just, you know, the pentatonic scale for some reason.
In a world that is increasingly separated by division and segregation, we need more things to unify us and bring us together as one human race. Perhaps we can learn from the pentatonic scale, a skill that shows no prejudice and one that is embraced by all, no matter who we are and where we come from.